So this weekend was really the first day I've worked outside at all this season, really doing much of anything in the landscape beds mostly, but then also out here trying to get a few things done. I have lots of work to do out here in this field, the hoop house, and I mostly was trying to get a few things planted in the landscape that I had bought on one of those trips where you think you're just going for one thing and you end up getting a lot of things. That's kind of how that trip went. That's how most of my trips go. So it's been a very busy time. I started a new job as a nurse practitioner. It's full-time. It's been more than full-time lately. And you know, it just leaves very little gaps, you know, to get anything else in. But my desire to keep growing the flowers, I want to continue to sell the flowers right now, so that's not gone away. So I'm just making it work. I've noticed this year, you know, a lot of trial and error out here, definitely with my cool season flowers. My goal was to find which kind of things I can plant here in Oklahoma. 7B is where we are, with essentially no cover, no attention, you know. Some of it was direct sow. Several of things were started as transplants and put out in the field or raised beds, and then I left them. I have had to water some. We don't get away with not watering in the winter here in Oklahoma often, but I did do a little bit of watering. But other than that, I didn't do anything with these. So I'll show you kind of where we're at with the field, and what things have worked and which things have not worked for me. You know, like I said, all trial and error. There are times I felt like it was soil because I brought in a lot of soil. I brought in compost. I wondered if I overdid the compost. I did overdo the compost. I did get soil samples, and many of my areas had way too much phosphorus, not enough nitrogen. So I've been working on that. Let me turn you around here. And so here's where things are. A big mess is where they are. But I am super happy to see the snapdragons coming up here. This is my first year to plant these outside. I usually put these in the hoop house. The last couple of years, 3 years, I've put them in the hoop house, and they do well. I've got a section out there. They are more protected, you know, of course, there. And I feel like there may still be some benefit to planting some of those out in the hoop. But it is April 15th, and you can see the buds here. These are about to bloom. I completely forgot. You'd think my notes would be better from last year. I really like this wider row. I have really long arms. I'm tall, so I like this row of 4 foot, but I completely forgot I was not going to do that again because my netting doesn't fit across the row, and I need these to be netted. So I'm taking my chances. I've netted half of this, and the other little bit over there just is not going to be supported. These are my dianthus. These overwintered really well. This is the first year I've been successful with these. Sometimes they won't even make it out of the seed trays for whatever reason. I had issue the first couple of years. I have a very small patch out in the hoop house that didn't grow much more than a foot the first year, but they're actually coming back, and I love this color. I cannot wait to put this with some other bouquets. I mean, in a bouquet with some other flowers, and if these all do well, there are a lot of blooms. So I've heard how easy the Sweet William is to grow. These are the Amazon series, and I can see that these have a lot of length on them. Again, they were fall planted. I started them as seeds, grew them as transplants, and planted them out, and they've done really, really well. I've got a little bit of stock here. I'm giving it one more chance to see if I can grow a little bit of stock here. It was also put out in the winter, as was this campanula. Somehow, a couple little campanulas ended up over here. I don't know why they decided to bloom. There's one, there's a purple one, and there's a little pink one. But here's the normal size, and they look like they're gonna do well. I didn't get a lot of those germinated. You know, it's amazing. You feel like you're starting so many seeds. And then once you get it out here, and I space very closely, especially for that. That's a one and done. You cut it, that's it. So, you know, I will tend to cram some of these in pretty close. You know, you just get out here and then it doesn't take up much space. So I need to, you know, I'm still in the process right now. You can see I'm just growing way too many types of things. But, you know, everybody always says, oh, when you're first starting to grow flowers, especially cut flowers for, you know, to sell, don't try to grow everything. Well, you know, you kind of have to see what you like to grow. You have to see what does well for you and what doesn't. For example, statice is supposed to overwinter, and none of this is statice. Did not overwinter. That's not something I will overwinter in the future. I will just start it and do a very early spring, or essentially late winter for us, planting of that. Now yarrow, of course, did great. This is very tall and looking good, and my scabiosa did not make it, but there's a feverfew, really good. Winged everlasting, this is the first year I've planted this. I can tell I'm gonna like it. This is a really pretty leaf, almost has a velvety look right now, but we'll see what it looks like when it matures. This is a mess. It's weeds that I need to pull out. Tulips that were a complete bust for me. These were actually purchased, I think this was 300 or 500 tulips. They were supposedly pre-chilled, which is very helpful here in Oklahoma. And this is the aftermath. I think I maybe had 10 tulips out of those. And I just pulled up the bulbs, got to dispose of that. Very frustrating. A few echinops, some things that self-seeded themselves. And then of course, bachelor buttons do really, really well in Oklahoma. Well, anywhere, almost probably. They are very hardy. I didn't do a thing to those. I self-seeded or direct sowed those. Some poppies that kind of self-seeded themselves from last year. And I just direct sowed a little bit of more Sorrent, or Sorrenthy, however you say that. What I overwintered and put out did not make it, but I think it will be a very early spring crop. We'll see if these are a little too late. A few scattered bupleurum that landed over there, but here's my bupleurum and my one little sad, I think I've got one Bells of Ireland tucked in here. The rest of the Bells of Ireland didn't make it. They germinated and they started really well, so I don't know what happened to those. That could have been a water issue, but I love bupleurum. I need to start some more of those for a succession. A few little snaps here in the raised bed, and my poppies that I accidentally planted on top of the daffodils that I thought I had gotten out of this bed. So I have lots of Orlea coming up. You can see it is starting to bloom, and these will be amazing. These are so pretty. They don't have a really short, harvest window, so you have some time on these. You'll be surprised how big these get if you've never seen these. These were super easy to direct sow. Now they floated in my bed, and so beds are kind of messy, which is funny. That's something else I've noticed about myself changing. And I used to be really regimented with where things went, and like putting things in rows. And at this point, especially with these cool season flowers that are going to be ripped out, and then I'm going to, turn these beds over to do warm season annuals, I just don't care. I just want something to grow here, and I want to cover the dirt. So these are going to be great. I'm going to have a lot of these, probably too many, but I noticed they do dry really well. This doesn't look like much, but trust me, it's coming. And then this is some kind of baby's breath that decided to come back. We'll see how it does. Some Nigella, which was also direct sowed, and it's done well. Got some weeds trying to, as hard as I can, to take their place here. But yeah, that is looking good, and I'll get, it looks like a few probably a few from this little patch, and a little bit of rudbeckia here on the end, which, you know, not much of that made it, but it's thriving. So those are some of the things that I direct sowed or planted out in late fall here, and that have overwintered. I have to come in and do some major cleanup here. These are the cattle panel trellises. You know, a lot of people do this. They make their arch out of a cattle panel. Super easy to do. And that will be totally taken over by hyacinth bean. I've got to clean out this old hyacinth bean. And right behind that there is the two rows. That's 2 rows that I cut. I don't know if I had that in my other video, of cover crop. So here's our soil. It leaves much to be desired. It looks like red sand, but it's often very clay-like. And I have not added any additional soil to this. I just direct sowed some red clover and let that overwinter to hopefully bring some nitrogen in, and just cover that soil. I'm going to tarp this, and these will be rows of annuals, and we'll see. I'm going to plant some cosmos here because they like crap soil, and we'll see what else does okay here. This may not go super well this first season, but I'll just keep adding to the soil, and that will over time hopefully become a lush area. I have learned a lesson. If you have gardened for a while and you started with or have any of the landscape fabric down, I would urge you to pull it up.